Sri Lanka is making leaps and bounds in terms of renewable energy, and we are transitioning very quickly into the sector. To start off the conversation and give our viewers a kind of foundation, what would you say is the state of the sector today?
You all know that we are driving towards 70% renewable generation by 2030. Many say it's an impossible target, but what we believe is quite possible. Yes. But we need to give prominence and publicity and awareness to the community. And we are very happy to be partnered with that growth with the government. Unfortunately, there is no growth in the consumption in the country. Since 2019, the consumption has come down because of the crisis situations and because of the high energy prices. So the projects have been awarded. We are very happy that we've got 149 megawatts of ground-mounted solar projects in hand, plus another 50 megawatts of wind. So that will add another 200 megawatts or plus more to the country's grid.
We always talk about solar, but I know there's a lot of things happening in wind as well. Can you give us some insights about wind and other sources?
Yes, total solar power installed in the world is 2 million megawatts, and the wind is 1.2 million. So the growth rate of solar is humongous, it's huge. And solar and wind together in the total world, which is about 70% of the total renewables, if you look at as a spectrum.
What are the trends that are most significant globally in terms of renewable energy, and what are the trends that we are seeing here?
To give you a figure, China's solar energy installation is such that that's not enough for their demand in the past. So they are still putting up new coal power plants. And US, because of the grid availability issues like what we have faced, so there is a slowdown in terms of wind and solar, but still there's a growth. So we have a huge potential in Sri Lanka. If you look at the manna belt, of course there are environmental issues, but India has identified the Pork Strait, that belt can generate about 60,000 megawatts of wind power. That's more than what we need, so we can even export to
Exactly.
India.
Sri Lanka is actively transitioning into renewable energy. We spoke about all of this and more with Hasith Prematillake. Stay tuned.
When you have an ambition, trust your instincts, move forward. This is your moment to shape your future, to be independent, to strengthen yourself. Your time is now. Accelerate your progress, empowering your progress for a fulfilled life. Union Assurance.
For 30 years, LMD has been the voice of business in Sri Lanka, capturing the pulse of the nation's corporate landscape through its iconic covers. Each cover tells a story, from the first edition in 1994 to the present day, narrating key moments, leaders and trends that have shaped Sri Lanka's business ecosystem. Over the years, LMD covers have featured thought leaders, business pioneers and game-changing innovations, reflecting the evolution of industries and the economy. As we celebrate 30 years, these covers represent more than just publications. They are a testament to LMD's legacy of excellence in business journalism and its unwavering commitment to being Sri Lanka's leading voice of business. LMD, Sri Lanka's voice of business, a legacy of 30 years.
Hello and welcome to LMDtv. The topic of conversation today is renewable energy trends, and I'm here with the Managing Director of Hayleys Fentons, Hasith Prematillake. Welcome to our show.
Thank you, Ruwandi.
Sri Lanka is making leaps and bounds in terms of renewable energy, and we are transitioning very quickly into the sector. To start off the conversation and give our viewers a kind of foundation, what would you say is the state of the sector today?
Yes, Ruwandi. You all know that we are driving towards 70% renewable generation by 2030. Many say it's an impossible target, but what we believe is quite possible.
Yeah.
But you need to give prominence and publicity and awareness to the community. So even though the government or public sector is reluctant to invest other than in few wind projects which we see, In the solar energy side, they don't invest, but it's all private investment.
Right.
But still, in the last year, we achieved a gigantic step.
Wow.
So it grew from 1000 megawatts to 1500 in terms of solar energy.
Wow.
And we are very happy to be partnered with that
Yes.
growth with the government.
And Hasith, can you shed some light upon the growth of the suppliers as well as the consumption, if you can?
The consumption wise, unfortunately, there is no growth in the consumption in the country. Since 2019, the consumption has come down because of the crisis situations and because of the high energy prices. But supply side, there is a lot of investment taken place.
Yes.
There are few types like private investment in private properties,
Right.
and the CB tenders where the bulk
Yes.
solar supplies and bulk wind supplies take place. So the projects have been awarded. We are very happy that we've got 149 megawatts of ground mounted solar projects in hand, plus another 50 megawatt of wind. And at the same time, there's a lot of private investment took place. There was a scheme called Net Plus Plus. So if you have a roof, larger roof, you can install solar and export to the grid.
Right.
But unfortunately, it's on hold right
Hold
at the moment
right
because
now.
there was extra supply than the CB or the
Grid
ministry
can
expected.
Right, right. And Hasith, we always talk about solar, but I know there's a lot of things happening in wind as well. Can you give us some insights about wind and other sources?
Yes, solar in the world, if you look at total solar power installed in the world is 2 million megawatts, and the wind is 1.2 million.
Okay.
So which is less than solar. And the growth rate, if you look at the last year, solar 450 megawatts of solar was added to the total system,
Yes.
and only about 100 megawatts of wind was added. So the growth rate of solar is humongous, it's
Right.
huge.
Yes.
And solar and wind together in the total world, which is about 70% of the total renewables, if you look at as a spectrum. In Sri Lanka, solar, as I said, it's 1,500, 1,600 megawatts at the moment in the terms of the capacity installed, but it generates only during the sun hours. But the wind can generate during the season, and wind is about 250 megawatts. So there's so much of opportunity in the wind sector, but investment is very expensive
costly,
compared to solar.
Right.
But still, there are some private sector investment happening. But for the solar wind investment, we'll have to work hand in hand with the CEB
Yes.
to identify the location, identify the capacity of the grid,
Got it.
and so many other things.
Oh, such an interesting space. And thank you for giving us some insights about the global and the local trends. Talking about trends that you're seeing, what are the trends that are most significant globally in terms of renewable energy, and what are the trends that we're seeing here?
It's in Sri Lanka, globally, as I told you, solar is growing at a very, very fast rate.
Yes.
And the countries like China and India and US, they're adopting solar energy in big numbers.
Right.
To give you a figure, China's solar energy installation is such that that's not enough for their demand in the power. So they are still putting up new coal power plants.
Oh, I see.
So and US, because of the grid availability issues like what we have faced, so there is a slowdown in terms of wind and solar, but still there's a growth. The countries like comparable countries like Australia and Netherlands, so they have adapted in big time. And say Australia is about 20 to 30% of solar power is being used at the moment, and Netherlands is about 20%.
Nice.
And their adoption is more than what we see is the larger capacities there in smaller micro capacities in residential and commercial segment.
Oh, okay.
In Australia and Netherlands, every one house out of 3 have adopted solar.
That's amazing. Wow.
It is, yeah. So we have a huge potential in Sri Lanka. If you look at the Manna Belt, of course there are environmental issues, but India has identified the Pork Strait, that belt can generate about 60,000 megawatts of wind power. That's more than what we need, we can even export to
exactly.
India.
Wow. Amazing news, and we are looking forward to hearing a lot of developments from you also. Looking at of course, we have very ambitious targets, and like you said, it's optimistic. If we look a little bit at the challenges like the grid infrastructure, storage issues, How are we faring on
Grid and
overcoming
the
it?
consumption are the biggest challenges.
Okay.
So usually the consumption during daytime, it was earlier the nighttime consumption was the highest. Now
Right.
it has shifted to daytime. More and more
Okay.
sophistication happen, our developments and the economic status going
yeah.
up. More people are using power
Right.
equipment,
Yes.
especially air conditioning.
Right.
So then the
Yes.
daytime power goes up. So it's a good match with solar power and the daytime consumption.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's not even.
That's true. Yes.
So therefore, like you mentioned, the storage has to happen. But the countries like Australia, Netherlands, as I told you, most of the households, they have energy storage systems.
Right. Individually,
individually, and they go like a microgrid and a residential level, they are having energy sufficiency.
Wow.
So they store the energy during the daytime
Yeah.
and
Use
consumes
it.
during the night time.
Wow.
So Sri Lanka also has to adapt to that, and then few high net worth individuals have invested in the
yeah.
hybrid system.
Yes.
But now the prices have come down,
Okay.
so we are trying to promote that to the market, where our hybrid system starts somewhere around 1.5, 1.6 million units for a household,
Okay.
which is good enough for a household consumption.
Right.
And the commercial level also, we have installed the largest battery storage system in Sri Lanka. That's 2 megawatt hour battery storage system for a data center in Vattala.
Nice.
And for them, they can use that power for about 4 days, even when there's a full blackout.
That's amazing.
So this is the kind of things that has to happen. I think government is coming up with policy changes and the rate changes to encourage more
Yeah.
energy storage.
Right.
So that will address mainly the grid issue. So we have to develop the grid infrastructure. There are few tenders that's been floated to improve the transmission lines and the substations. At the same time, when the battery storage come and when the batteries are installed connected to most of the substations,
Yes.
they can absorb more and more solar energy.
Wow. So it has to, the whole ecosystem has to build, not just
Correct.
one or two or.
That's right, Ruwandi, yeah. And it will happen. There's more private sector willing to invest in that. So rate has to be viable.
Yes, yes.
But
Right now
recently
it's
we
very
learned
costly,
that
right? Yes.
it is.
Yeah, it is.
So we learned that there's new rate coming up,
Okay.
encouraging more battery storage system. And at the same time, they are discouraging the absorption of daytime solar.
Yes.
So that should not happen. So it has to be kind of a level where it's economically viable for a private sector, because there is no government incentive.
That's true. That's true. It's time now to take a very short break, but we'll soon be back to talk more about renewable energy.
Display your brand message on digital screens at prime locations. The largest digital advertising network in Sri Lanka. Emerging Media.
Welcome back to the show. We're in conversation with the Managing Director of Hayleys Fentons, Hasith Prematillake. And looking at it from a supply point of view, what would you say should be a quick win for the government in this regard, and what should they do in the long term?
A quick win is, like I mentioned, the battery storage.
Battery storage.
That's the fastest, because batteries are available in abundance and the solar panels are available.
Yes.
So it's a matter of fixing it. That's the faster renewable energy solutions that the world can adopt. And the second one is the wind.
Yes.
It takes about 1.5 to 2 years time for a wind installation, but still it's viable for a country like Sri Lanka.
Nice.
And it gives firm power as well. In the long run,
Yeah.
so it can be even more natural.
Yes.
So I'd say instead of chemical battery, we can have more natural battery. That's called pump hydro. So where the hydropower is generated and the water flows down the stream, and it's pumped back to the reservoirs. Using the solar power during the daytime, because there's abundance of solar power during the daytime.
Yes.
And that water can be utilized to generate hydropower in the night time. So it has a massive investment.
Yeah.
And Sri Lanka has, CB has in their long-term plans to
Okay.
implement that in
Which
2030.
countries have implemented that?
So countries like India, they have
They
implemented
have
that.
already. Okay. So it's within reach.
It's within reach. The technology is available.
Right.
It's been implemented. And power is one that we can't live
Live
without.
for sure.
And when it comes to electric vehicles, more and more power is needed, and that replaces the diesel and petrol consumption in the whole world. And in Sri Lanka, the electricity consumption is only 12% of the total energy consumption in the country.
Really?
Yes, and 45 to 50% is basically we call firewood. Right? So that will be replaced with energy when the living standards of the country and the citizens going up. And the rest is like diesel, petrol, heavy fuel, coal. So those will be replaced with more and more renewable energy. So solar and wind is a good solution. And we can have alternative renewable energy and replace those kind of
other sources,
fossil fuel based energy consumption. And at the same time we can stop dollar going out.
Exactly.
So it's a one-time investment for solar and wind, and that lasts for about 20-25 years.
5 years, yeah. Well, thank you very much for the statistics. That really paints a lovely picture. It's been a very interesting conversation, but unfortunately we're nearing the end. So if I ask you as a final question, right now, I mean, like you said, there's a lot more room to grow, and it is very consumption driven, and right now the consumption is stalling also, and the public has various views about this, like why are you asking us to stop it and things like that. What is your message to the public on how we can carry forward?
Yes, so the simplest thing is to be self-sufficient at the domestic level. If someone can have a hybrid system with a battery, so you are helping yourself, you are reducing your daily electricity bill going out, and you generate electricity and you use store and consume in the night time, and you help the economy. So that way, from the residential to commercial level, if everybody thinks like that, so we call it microgrids. So it's small grids get together, and finally as a country we can be self-sufficient.
That's a lovely picture. Let's hope we get there soon. We've been in conversation with the Managing Director of Hayleys Fentons, Hasith Prematillake. Thank you very much for a very insightful conversation.
Thank you very much.
And thank you to all our viewers for joining us. Until next time, take care.
Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram and X. Thank you for watching and stay safe.